Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. 2 students kidnapped by unidentified gunmen in the northwest region of Cameroon are rescued by elements of the National Armed Forces. They were kidnapped yesterday and later rescued by soldiers. And the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of ex-servicemen Kumpa Issa tells recently appointed and installed top military officials in the northwest region to ensure the effective protection of sensitive areas and smooth collaboration between ex-servicemen and authorities in intelligence gathering. Those were our top stories. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. 2 students kidnapped by unidentified gunmen in Kambe in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon have been rescued by elements of the National Armed Forces. The students, of course, were kidnapped yesterday while on their way to school, notably Government Bilingual High School in Kambe in the northwest region of the country, and alerted by the Kambe patrol. The Kambe patrol quickly moved to the area, and of course with the help of some Bororo indigenes or guides, they succeeded to rescue the students, and the kidnappers will be caught more than 4 kilometers with the 2 students. The kidnappers were caught with that is more than 4 kilometers away with the students who were kidnapped. And on to something else now. The Secretary of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of ex-servicemen Kumpa Issa has urged recently appointed and installed military officials in the northwest region of the country to ensure the effective protection of sensitive areas and also to ensure smooth collaboration between ex-servicemen and administrative authorities, notably with regards to their involvement in intelligence gatherings. Stella Mbu reports from Bamenda.
The Secretary of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of ex-servicemen and war victims, Kumpa Issa, officiated the installation ceremony which took place at the Commercial Avenue Grandstand. Lieutenant Colonel Hamza Ibrahim, a state-registered aeronautics engineer specialized in telemechanical engineering, was installed as commander of the 501 Air Force Base, while Navy Captain Samba Wanzi Samuel was installed as the head of the regional division of ex-servicemen and war victims. For 3 years now, security forces have been battling to protect the territorial boundaries of Cameroon, threatened by the actions of separatist fighters. Securing the airspace, among other functions, is of prime importance.
Lieutenant Colonel Hamza Ibrahim, above all, ensure the protection thereof of its sensitive areas at all times and in all circumstances. Maintain constant vigilance in the surveillance of the airspace under your command. And to you, Navy Captain Samba Samuel Awazi, you shall pay particular attention to sound collaboration between retired military personnel and the authorities through the involvement in intelligence gathering, as well as the management, education and guidance of orphans, widows and other civil and military war victims.
In order to achieve this and more, Mr. Kumpa Issa stresses the need for collaboration and discipline. These 2 are taking over command of their respective units few weeks after an incident in Bamenda, which led to a junior soldier ending his life after making an attempt at his boss.
Organize moral talks with troops to avoid acts that will encounter the military ethics.
Good infrastructures and well-developed services will enable the military to better execute their duties. The need for more military hardware is one aspect which may go a long way in ensuring speedy interventions in a region where crime is on the increase. 47 years old Lieutenant Colonel Hamza Ibrahim takes over from Colonel Zume Kenneth, who goes on retirement, while 57 years old Navy Captain Samuel Samba replaces Lieutenant Colonel Ngonga Severin, gone for further studies. With music from the military band, the ceremony wraps up with march bands by the different detachments of the military corps.
And in Tiko, in the southwest region of Cameroon, administrative and municipal authorities are doing everything possible to turn down the negative impact of the Anglophone crisis on schools. And some of the authorities have been striving to ensure that schools function in full capacity, as Derijato reports.
Chief Mokondo Daniel Ngande, Mayor of Tiko Council, has taken what is expected of his office to the Tiko Subdivisional Inspectorate of Basic Education.
So I'll call it a tradition. I think what we've handled is not all that we do to the individual family in the course of the year.
And while handing over the annual didactic materials, Mayor Mokondo Daniel said the action is just one of the Tiko Council academic activities to accompany the government. Receiving the consignment for onward distribution to the 32 public primary schools to benefit, Ndanga Elizabeth Nambundo, Tiko Subdivisional Inspector of Basic Education, promised the Tiko Council that these basic school needs for basic education will adequately reach its destined destination.
In fact, very elated, and I want to promise you, like I've always done, that the materials will reach their real destination.
And present was Anwapo Kletos Asongwe, the divisional officer for Tiko Subdivision, who paints a picture of things in his area of command.
The message is therefore very clear. 9,000 children in class today. It means we are almost attaining the peak. If there is any doubting Thomas who chooses to remain in the house, at least that Thomas will take the responsibility for his or her own failure tomorrow.
Leaving the inspectorate, the Tiko Mayor said the doors of his office are always open and ready to assist, especially when it comes to the education of the child.
And while administrative and municipal authorities are striving to ensure that schools go operational or function in full capacity, cultural stakeholders are also striving to promote and revive the rich and diverse cultural heritage of the Anglophone parts of the Republic of Cameroon, affected by socio-political and security crisis for close to 3 years. And the crisis has seriously dampened the cultural heritage of the people of the northwest region of the country in particular. And a correspondent in Bamenda, Stellambu, reports that the cultural festival organized in that part of the country has brought a revival to the cultures of the people. A report.
From far and near they came, to the drum beats they danced. With love, the guests admire the cultural diversity of the Northwest region. Before this relaunch of arts and culture, community life, culture and development come together are gradually being forgotten by the younger generation. They are being threatened by the crisis, which has forced activities, particularly annual cultural events, to be postponed severally. This week in Bamenda, an arts and cultural jamboree dubbed Rican Northwest took place with the region's finest arts and cultural display. The people gathered here at Upstation Bamenda to celebrate their pride. As the crisis deepens, the artists' ends cannot meet.
We find it very difficult to make ends meet because since there is no movement of vehicles, we can only manage to have this material, but we cannot reach the world market because of the means of transportation.
The art on display here is a reflection of today's realities in the Northwest and Southwest regions. The children back in the communities have been negatively impacted for 3 years. They have lost their parents and their rights to education. They are now left without the basics like water and electricity. They are stranded and in tears, can only hope for a return to normalcy. This is possible if everyone spoke the truth. For 5 days, the Bamenda Upstation was the hot place for the Northwest cultural and artistic best. Culture being a uniting factor, Governor Adolphe Lele Lafrique was present.
I would like to call on private investors to invest in the cultural domain to harness cultural potential and use it as a tool to develop our communities, our region, and our country.
A people without their culture is like a zebra without its stripes. There is therefore the need for appropriate infrastructures for entertainment and display in at least every divisional headquarters in the region. Also, artists should be included in the designing of our towns and cities if they must look beautiful and attract tourists. This way, the economy will be boosted. The artist's cry is for the recurrent Northwest trend to be maintained so they can export their artistic and cultural know-how.
One of the ex-detainees of the October 2018 post-election crisis in the Republic of Cameroon, Albert Nzongan, ally of Professor Maurice Kamto and the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, has told the inhabitants of his Bahwang village in the west region of the country to mobilize en masse ahead of upcoming elections in the country. He also urged them to work for peace in Cameroon. He was received by a huge crowd of supporters and followers in his native Bahwang village 10 days after his liberation from the Kondengi maximum security prison in Yaoundé. Details with EQUINOXE.
Albert Nzongan, president of the Dynamic Party and ally of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement opposition political party, highly welcomed as he stepped feet on his native Bahwang soil in the West region, 10 days after his liberation from Kondengi, where he spent 9 months alongside other CRM leaders over insurrection, hostility against the fatherland, and rebellion generating from the CRM peaceful protest against electoral hold-up.
Il faut que nous célébrions, que nous fêtions.
Elites of Bahwang village note his freedom and arrival deserve to be celebrated as he returned without any harm.
Sa présence en prison, nous pensions qu'on allait même le fusiller, compte tenu de tout ce qu'on a dit de lui.
From Batia roundabout, Albert Nzongan and his party militants toured various localities and a large crowd at the Bahwang Palace Arena, with locals waving peace plans. While there, Albert Nzongan thanked the people for their continuous support and trust, calling on them to prepare for upcoming elections.
Afin que je sois prêt pour les prochains combats. Parce que le meeting politique ne sera ouvert que par le président élu Maurice Kamto.
He also noted they had spent good times with the Amazonian leaders while in jail.
Partager la même cour avec les chefs sécessionnistes, dont leur président Ayou Tabe. Nous avons été tous les jours ensemble.
Albert Nzongan was accompanied by other freed prisoners in the West region.
The Hausa Quarter in Edea 1 subdivision in the littoral region of Cameroon is in a tense atmosphere as a result of a chieftaincy quarrel in that part of the country, and some Hausa indigenes of Edea 1 subdivision are condemning the divisional officer of that administrative unit for what they consider as conspiracy and marginalization of the Hausa community as far as the chieftaincy is concerned. We have details in this report compiled by Fomi Armstrong Sander.
The chieftaincy conflict at the Hausa Quarter in Edea, Sanaga Maritime Division of the littoral region of Cameroon is a circle around 4 candidates. some traditional rulers of Edea, and the local administration led by the divisional officer for Edea 1 subdivision, Stefan Kenjana. The four candidates, Abdul Rahman, Labaran Mamadu, Muhammad Sule, and the incumbent, His Majesty Zachary, few months ago deposited their documents in response to the criteria designed by the administrator to choose who to become the third-class chief of the Hausa Quarter in Edea 1 subdivision. On October 9, 2019, the subdivisional officer convened a consultative meeting attended by 18 out of 25 notables of Hausa Quarter in Edea. The meeting ended with the voting and designation of Muhammad Suli, the only candidate who was present as the third-class chief of Hausa Quarter in Edea 1. There are many people who tried to hamper the success of this process, but you can see that it went on well. I call on the new chief to act as a unifier, to be humble in order to bring back calm and serenity that was long gone in these neighborhoods of Edea. To the three other candidates, including the incumbent Zachary, the divisional officer manipulated and sided with Muhammad Suli in a process which, according to them, was full of irregularities. I was surprised when they announced that my chieftaincy's stole was vacant, whereas the law says such vacancy can only come if the incumbent is dead, has been dethroned, has resigned, or has been declared physically unfit by a medical doctor. None of these points applied to my case. Furthermore, the divisional officer tactically kept us out of the election process by not informing us of his coming. We received no such communique.
Nous sommes des légalistes. Nous allons faire recours par voie normale.
They want to fight against what they call a conspiracy against the Hausas of Edea 1 subdivision. Another part of this problem is the marginalization of Hausas. The person imposed on us is not Hausa. His father is a Fulani. We shall defend our rights with the last drop of our blood.
Nous les Hausas d'Edea, nous sommes d'Edea et nous sommes une minorité marginalisée et nous subissons des injustices.
Responding to their claims, the divisional officer says the Hausa traditional chiefdom, generally headed by a Hausa Muslim, is different from a cosmopolitan third-class chiefdom of Hausa Quarter in Edea, which can be handled by any other eligible Cameroonian, irrespective of his or her ethnic origin or religious background. Despite the clarifications from the chief administrative officer, the three other candidates, seemingly in an alliance with a huge support, are not ready to give up as things fall further apart in Hausa Quarter, Edea 1 subdivision.
African ministers have said the eradication of malaria by 2020 will take more than money, and they say pledges need to be followed by concrete actions without which it will be very difficult to achieve the objective of eradicating malaria by 2030, or even impossible to achieve that objective. And in the following extract, listen to our Marie Cole Sek. She's the Senegalese former Minister of Public Health.
La lutte contre le paludisme se gagnera au niveau des communautés. Et j'ai donné l'exemple d'ailleurs lors de ma communication du village de Tiénaba, où il y a une approche communautaire qui fait qu'aujourd'hui il n'y a plus de paludisme dans tous les villages environnants, avec une conscientisation surtout des femmes qui ont pris en main cette lutte-là. Et donc c'est des choses qui seraient possibles ailleurs. Et je sais qu'ils sont en train de multiplier cette expérience. En tout cas, l'approche communautaire est une approche qui apportera beaucoup de choses.
In sports, the fifth of the Public Works Department, PWD, Bamenda, and Astro of Douala, as far as this year's League One Championship is concerned, is yet to be determined after the publication of the season's calendar by the Transitional Committee. It is clear that one of the two teams will play in League Two, but that is yet to be decided. Manjikan Gabriel has more.
The Professional Football Championship that is to start in the days ahead seems to be another bone of contention as two clubs are not certain of playing in League One this football season. The Transitional Committee headed by Alium Konaite in the program they published recently for the two competitions has the names of the Public Works Department, PWD of Bamenda and Astro Football Club of Douala. In the League One Championship calendar, on day one, the Transitional Committee has programmed RS Fortuna to confront either PWD of Bamenda or Astro of Douala, just like in the League 2 Championship on day one, where Ofta of Kribi is to host either PWD or Astro of Douala. This calls for attention as a club can't play in League 1 and League 2 respectively. This confusing situation is because both clubs has complaints still pending at the level of the Chambers of Reconciliation and Arbitration of Fecafoot and at the Appeals Commission of the Cameroon Olympic and Sports Committee. Last season, Astre of Douala and PWD were supposed to take part in the playoff in League One, but the Disciplinary and Homologation Committee of the Professional Football League was informed about the ineligibility of Astre player Eric Tato, which caused them to lose a point to the benefit of PWD of Bamenda, who remains in League One. Unfortunately, after it was adopted at the General Assembly meeting of the Professional Football League in June, that decision was later cancelled by the Appeals Commission of Fecafoot, making Astra and PWD all claiming for their places in the League One Championship. While waiting for the decision, the Transitional Committee that is in charge of the Professional League 1 and 2 Championship this season has maintained the date of 18th of October for the start of the League 1 Championship in Cameroon.
Smart Njikan Gebre ending this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. Stay with us.